Hey, it's Jordan with TYT and TYT Politics, coming to you from a lavish North Dakota hotel room where I get the best Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, bad news. A judge in Washington, D.C. has denied Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and Cheyenne River Tribe's request for a temporary restraining order against DAPL. That request was obviously to halt drilling and construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline immediately. The Cheyenne River last Thursday had set up this motion arguing religious rights. Their religious rights would be infringed upon with this pipeline going through. Standing Rock Sioux Tribe joined them over the weekend. This religious rights argument is new. Mostly they've been arguing in other requests for injunctions about the environmental consequences that this pipeline would have, as well as their sacred lands being desecrated by this pipeline. The judge, astonishingly, I'll just read from the AP. Basically, the judge said, as long as the oil isn't flowing through the pipeline, there is no immediate harm to Cheyenne River or Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. So basically, because there's not currently oil flowing through the pipeline, their religious rights aren't in imminent harm. No shit, Sherlock. I mean, I'm no lawyer, I'm no judge, but basically what the judge is saying is kind of like a common sense thing. Yes, the pipeline is under construction. Actually, there is technically oil in other parts of the pipeline, not this part. But he's saying that he's basically kicking the can down the road, saying, well, your religious rights are not imminently under threat because there's no oil flowing, so come back to me when there is oil flowing, which they're going to have another hearing. The judge said he'd consider the arguments more thoroughly at another hearing on February 27th. So as in many other times in this legal process that's been going on now for 2 years, the judges in D.C. and elsewhere are kicking the can down the road. So now there's another hearing scheduled for February 27th. The pipeline will not be completed by February 27th. It's now February 13th, so you're talking February 13th, literally 2 weeks from now. The pipeline won't be anywhere close to being completed. Also, I don't know if oil is going to be flowing in 2 weeks. Energy Transfer Partners said that the drilling under Lake Oahe would take anywhere from 2 to 3 months. Obviously, they've been working feverishly for months, very hastily, very quickly, which sets up even more danger to a pipeline burst. But in 2 weeks, which he's talking about February 27th as the next court hearing, the oil's not going to be flowing. So are we going to get the same exact weeks that, oh, well, your religious rights are not at risk because there's no oil flowing? It doesn't really make sense on its basis. Essentially, what the judge is arguing is the mere presence of the pipeline does not infringe upon your religious rights. It's only the oil flowing. But essentially, it's, punting. Of course, the mere presence of a steel pipeline doesn't infringe on anything, really. It just, well, yes, it does if that pipeline has already dug up this tribe and other tribes' sacred burial ground, which it has. Energy Transfer Partners has continually falsely said that it is not burying up, digging up sacred burial land. The tribe, archaeologists as well, have said, yes, they have dug up sacred burial ground. So the judge is incorrect where the presence of the pipeline, forget the oil, the presence of the pipeline has already infringed upon sacred burial ground, religious freedom, and all those things for Standing Rock Sioux and Cheyenne River. So essentially, this galvanizes Energy Transfer Partners even more. It galvanizes President Trump even more. The Army Corps of Engineers also filed a motion in court today saying that Standing Rock Sioux Tribe will have plenty of time for its case to be heard before oil is flowing. So there should not be any, there does not need to be any stoppage in work. Yes, because the Army Corps of Engineers and the federal government, everything that they have promised the Native Americans and the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe over the last couple centuries, they've followed through. So excuse me, excuse the tribes if they're not exactly sitting there saying, okay, well, they tell us we'll be heard before the oil flows, so we could all go home and be calm about it. I wouldn't take that to the bank that they're going to be heard before the oil is flowing. But what you have here today is another case of judges interpreting the law how they want to. I think it was an interesting angle to to file a restraining order based on the religious rights we saw in cases like Hobby Lobby 2 years ago, where companies were saying federal government trying to force companies to give out birth control or things like that infringes on their religious rights, and they were successful in those court hearings. So now the tribes were trying to kind of do that as well, but apparently the judge here only views religious rights if it's linked to the oil actually flowing. So his name is U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, B-O-A-S-B-E-R-G. And again, he says there will be another hearing on February 27th. I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but I want to give you the other news. So as we know, North Dakota itself has been trying to pass really reckless bills into laws that are going to, increase, from Class C felonies to Class B for certain things. So basically adding on more jail time to the sentence for water protectors, trying to add on more of a penalty for water protectors, from 5,000 to 10,000. But the most controversial bill that they're trying to ram through, I call the roadkill bill, where essentially they're giving license to call it pro-pipeline people, call it whatever you want, but people that see a water protector, an environmental activist, protesting to basically run them over and not be held criminally liable if something happens to the water protector. Well, we could finally positively declare that there is some sanity in North Dakota. That bill failed today in the North Dakota House. There were 41 yays for the bill and 50 noes for the bill. So that bill presumably will not be going forward. Maybe they'll try to rewrite it or do, pass amendments or something like that. But the bill as stated, which again, there would be no criminal liability if a pro-pipeline person, or forget the pipelines, just any person who runs over a protester. So we could be talking about an somebody, a pro-life person protesting at a Planned Parenthood, if they even have any Planned Parenthoods here. Can't guarantee they do. So that could work in both cases, where right now it would work against water protectors, but there might be protesters someday that are more conservative in nature that get run over. And the people who run them over would not be held criminally liable. That failed today in the North Dakota House. So that's a positive thing because at a certain point, when does the insanity stop? I just covered in South Dakota last week, literally the South Dakota legislator repealing a ballot measure that the voters had passed, an anti-corruption ballot measure. They just repealed it. So obviously democracy does not exist in South Dakota because, when people vote on a ballot measure and it passes, whether you like it or not, that's democracy. They repealed that last week. So I was getting a little worried that there is no democracy at all in South or North Dakota. But apparently there are cooler minds in the North Dakota House, which is predominantly Republican, who said, no, we can't just allow people to run over people they disagree with. So that's a good thing. Getting back to the tribes' arguments being denied today, I think that, as I always say, I'm not gonna just tell you what you want to hear. I'm not gonna bullshit you. I think that it right now does not look good for the no DAPL movement. It would be disingenuous for me to say otherwise. You have a president who obviously does not care about Native American rights. He does not care about environmental rights. He does not care about water. He does not care about knowledge. As you see over and over again, his administration is being run kind of, it's like amateur hour. He's signing executive orders like he's signing autographs for The Apprentice. He doesn't know what's in them. He has certainly told the Army Corps, who, let's not forget, just 2 months ago denied this same permit. So the Army Corps didn't drastically change their assessment that it was too much of a risk to grant a permit to drill a gigantic pipeline under the second largest water source in the United States. Remember, put aside politics. Common sense would dictate if you're putting a giant pipeline with toxic oil under the second largest water source in the United States that will serve 18 to 20 million people, maybe you should have a thorough review whether that's a good idea. Well, Trump doesn't think so. He has put a gun to the Army Corps' head, and they have changed their tune, which is why today they filed a motion saying there shouldn't be a haltage in Energy Transfer Partners construction. The tribe will have plenty of time before the oil is flowing. So essentially, this judge, the Army Court, their standard is now everything is fine until the oil is flowing. Well, when's the last time you have seen the federal government or a judge at the last minute once an oil pipeline company that, by the way, buys off those politicians and in many cases those judges, when's the last time you've seen them in the 24th hour, in the final hour, say, no, you've spent hundreds of billions of dollars on this pipeline. You obviously have invested, your shareholders are expecting this, your customers abroad, because again, as I always report, this isn't for U.S. domestic use. This is for foreign exports. And Donald Trump and conservatives have hoodwinked these pro-pipeline people into thinking that this is going to help America in energy independence. No such thing is going to happen. But we're conning ourselves into thinking that a judge or the federal government would step in at the last minute over treaty rights or over religious rights or over any of that stuff under the standard, well, let's wait till the oil is flowing. I could be wrong. I have been wrong before, but it is not looking good, to be honest with you. I don't want to just tell you what you want to hear. Now, on the positive end, you have, as I reported yesterday, you have veterans coming back. Anywhere between 100 to 200 are expected back this week. I spoke with several of them yesterday. Many of them are saying, over my dead body, that pipeline's going through. I can't tell you what they're going to do, but many of them are very steadfast that that pipeline, come hell or high water, that oil won't be flowing and that pipeline won't be going through. So that's what the veterans say. There is the overall lawsuit that Standing Rock Sioux Tribe still has in effect. That I think that's what they're talking about, that Standing Rock Sioux Tribe will still have time to be heard before the oil is flowing. That lawsuit looks at sacred sites as well as environmental impact. And I also think, as I've said in prior reports, listen, I'm a journalist, so I'm not going to strategize with the audience how to file suit. But the bottom line is there's something being very lost here in this whole discussion. And obviously the corporate media, they're too interested in covering Donald Trump's tweets, so you're not going to hear from them. This president is invested in the pipeline. I don't know how many times I have to say it. So I'm no fan of Hillary Clinton, as you know. I covered her critically. I'm blamed for President Trump among many trolls online. Thank you for giving me that much power. However, let's be honest. If this were President Clinton, she was invested in an oil pipeline. She rammed it through. She made the Army Corps reverse their decision to ram it through. There would be riots in the streets for days among progressives and, frankly, a lot of more common sense Republicans who just hate Hillary Clinton, and rightly so. So the fact that this president owns shares in Phillips 66, which owns 25% of this pipeline, he also owns shares in Energy Transfer Partners. The media keeps reporting that he has sold his shares in Energy Transfer Partners. It's like just like they keep reporting that Russia hacked the DNC and John Podesta. Well, have you seen Donald Trump's stock portfolio that shows he doesn't own shares in Energy Transfer Partners? I haven't. Have you seen his taxes? I haven't. What are we supposed to take Donald Trump's word for it? Go listen to Senator Bernie Sanders, who routinely calls him a pathological liar. I'm not taking this man's word for it that he doesn't own shares in this company. And by the way, it's not just President Trump. He appointed Rick Perry, the former governor of Texas, who was completely bought off by this company, Energy Transfer Partners, gave him $6 million over his political career. He was on the board of Energy Transfer Partners. So I see a lot of the demonstrations around the country, correctly so, focused on environmental rights and native rights and indigenous rights, and that's great. I'm not taking away from that. But as I need to remind you, the corporate media, they're not interested in environmental rights. Not sexy enough for them. They don't care about their kids' water. They're certainly not interested about Native American rights, sacred rights. They don't care. Not sexy enough. What corporate media does care about is anything to do with Donald Trump, because that's all they cover 24/7, as well as him possibly breaking ethics laws or corruption. Well, if the President of the United States comes in and within 2 weeks rams a pipeline through that's very controversial, and he's invested in it, I would say that's an ethical quandary. I don't know about you. So, and the trolls will say, Jordan, you're biased, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I am. I'm biased for facts. That is my bias. The fact is, Energy Transfer Partners, it was just reported last week, has had 69 oil spills over the last year, between 2015 and 2016. By the way, folks, that's only what they reported. As we know, most of these oil companies don't report a shit ton of smaller leaks that they don't deem important enough to report. So Energy Transfer Partners has had 69 oil spills. Enbridge, who is one of the worst in oil spills, they were responsible for that catastrophic spill in the Kalamazoo River in Michigan years ago. Enbridge just had a pipeline explode in Louisiana. That friend of the Young Turks, Josh Fox, just happened to be standing in front of. Go look at his Twitter. It's pinned at the top. He correctly says, oh, no, pipelines are safe, besides the one that just exploded behind me. That's Enbridge. So this isn't like my opinion. This is facts. This is data. This is, it's kind of a suicidal thing to put a giant pipeline through the second largest water source in America. And apparently the judges, obviously the federal government, they almost, it's like to the letter of the law. This judge says, well, it's not going to infringe on anybody's religion until the oil is flowing. You know, I think they're playing a dangerous game here, but as we've seen, the power that corrupts our government, this revolving door we have between the banks, the lobbyists, the media, the politicians, it's a very powerful force, and it's not going to be defeated over one night, and it's going to take movements like this. But I do think if you're going to demonstrate, remind people that this isn't just about water. It's not just about Native rights, because it's not just Native Americans who are drinking this water. 18 million people downstream. That's white people, that's black people, that's straight people, that's gay people. Black, brown, white, purple, doesn't matter. 18 to 20 million people are drinking this water. And that includes hillbillies and pro-pipeline people who don't know any better. So, I'm going to continue covering it. This is my 7th time here. I'm looking into North Dakota real estate at the moment. No, I'm kidding. Because, hey, I'm always here. But I'll continue covering it. I'm going to be speaking later with representation for the tribe to talk about what their next move is. So once I speak with them, you'll get updates from me. We'll try to turn that around very quickly. And that's it. As always, share this video. If you're not subscribed to TYT Politics, we have over 200 videos in total from the several months I've been down here. So that's at youtube.com/TYT Politics. Go to the playlist section, and we have a playlist. I think it's Native Americans Fight Dakota Access Pipeline. But as always, I'm keeping it real for you. This is not a good ruling. The other thing is good, that now it is not made legal that you can run someone over. Maybe they'll change it by the end of the week. But currently today, that bill failed. So that's a good thing. And that's the deal. So follow my Twitter. As I told you yesterday, I'm not posting anymore on my personal Facebook page. So if you want to get updates or breaking news from me, type in my name, Jordan Sheridan. I think 2 pages come up. You're going to want to go to my public page. You got to like it, and that's where I'm posting my updates. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more updates as the day goes on.